When I was trying to make adjustments on the saddle, um, the B and the E, this set screw wouldn't turn. I'm thinking, what the hell's the matter with that? So I just took that off. And I'm thinking, you know, this was stripped, and I'm going, why the hell is that stripped? It's not turning at all. Well, somebody forced that in there so hard and cross-threaded it, it can't even be turned with the pliers. Oh, well, now I can't. Or is it just spinning? It's just spinning in the pliers. It's cross-threaded in there so hard, it will move one way or the other. Jesus. LYX Pro. Not so pro. Always keep the extra springs and hardware. Can always be useful for something else down the road. This bridge with the holes only for these 3 saddles could be used on a guitar that has the compensated Wilkinson saddles on it. That would allow for better intonation and look more old-time style, vintage. They're very long. Oh, I think, yeah, these moved. I'll take those set screws out and I can save those. With my new grinder, I can also cut them down to size if I need to now. Happy I've been able to come up with some new tools lately to make some of this work a little bit easier. I also want to use this bridge, as a template to drill the holes through to go to the back where I'm going to install these vintage ferrules. So that's going to be a little exercise in measuring depth. First, it's a drill through with a standard bit from the top so I can get the holes in the right place. Tape up the back. I'm probably not going to be able to show all that because I don't have a good place to mount a camera over where my drill press is. I might not even have a bit that's long enough to go through the whole body. I'll have to see for the size that I need. But I want to go right through these string holes here, right through to the other side, and then that'll center where the strings will have to come through. And then using a brad bit, I can drill the hole from the other side for the depth, and just a little bit smaller than where the serrations are, so that they bite into the wood and stay in place on the back side. Luck. Not that I usually have a lot of it, but I do have a lot of it. It's usually bad. What's going on with these screws? They look a little worse for wear as well. The heads. How are those doing in there? They're snug. Oh, not that one. That one wasn't snug. That one wasn't snug. Oh, this one's even up in the air. Oh, holy mac. So much for LYX Pro. 3 screws not secured. My. Let's see what it's going to be like taking off the neck. Very tight. Very tight. Is that my bigger one? Is that up there? Where is it? Is it this one? we bugger up any screws, always get the big bit. Too small bit spins out. And that's exactly why I won't use a power drill for this point, because I know they didn't put them in there with wax. And buggering up the screws is like the first thing that happens. And the second thing that happens as the bit slips out is it goes all over the body. That looks crooked. It's spinning out crooked, like the screw is warped. Okay, so look it. Seriously, I got these 4 screws out while I was talking to him, and 2 of them are coarse tread, these ones like you normally find on guitars, and then 2 of them are fine tread. Now, in and of themselves, that's usually not a problem. It's just that you usually don't find this in there. And why would they be using 2 different kind at the same time in a factory? I'm not sure. The length of the tread is also different between the screws, where you get more tread on the fine one. They're also biting in the body, as they always do, which made it so hard to get out. That'll have to be drilled out, so it's not doing that anymore. Oh! Now, this is a new one. I literally have not found this on any other guitar. They dug out the wood from here forward, which is lower than where the black is. You see where they painted it, and they dug it out to make the neck sit higher like that. They dug it out. An anti-shim. Definitely a basswood body. Soft. Sawdust everywhere. Because of course they do not clean after themselves or before themselves or anything like that. Okay. They even, under the plastic, they got the sawdust kind of jammed in there underneath the plastic cover for the neck plate. It was secured down with, I'm sure, an air-powered device. Okay, we'll have to do some buffing and cleaning of all that as well. Not sure about this anti-shim, since I couldn't actually do a decent job with the saddles that were on there. I'm not going to know about the neck angle. There's sawdust all over the bottom of this as well. How it sits, how it should sit. Do I need to put, you know, the shim back in here to make it flat again? If it brings it like this, that tends to make it be really high action down here. If it's sitting flat, you can adjust the action a little bit better across all the strings. And sometimes you need to adjust it backwards just a little bit to get that same levelness that you're talking about, because of the way the pocket may be routed. There's a little bit of crud in there. Doesn't matter too much. These will come off. So I'm going to vacuum up all of this mess, and I'm going to put the body aside for now, and I'm going to get my straight edge. I have a feeling that I have a little bit of a back bow in it now that the pressure's off. This plastic nut shouldn't be too much of a problem to come out. When I was removing the strings, I actually had to pull the strings out of a couple of these things. They were seized in the track there, in the slot. That should come out okay. I saw a video of one fellow who got one of these things, and he said there was a gap between his nut and the wood, like we had on, what did I have that on? Oh, my Zooway. I couldn't find another nut to put on the Zooway. Could I? I can't remember. But I know I had to shim it up, and I had to shim it on one side in order to make it fit in the slot, because it was cut too wide for the size of the nut that was in there, and it was leaning when they glued it in. Anywho, that's a different video that has already been done. So I have to clean all this up. I don't like dirt and sawdust all over my work area. And then I'm going to get my rocker and my straight edge from the other table, and I'll come and check out some of this stuff while you're not watching me. As far as unlevel frets go, it's not terrible. Up to 7, they're okay here. Then I've got this end and that end right across this fret. This end, that end, this end, the middle, and this end, and the middle. And the middle up here is usually problematic when it comes to G and B strings, and sometimes the D, because of the arc in the neck. You can see the arc in this neck. It is a compound radius where it's flatter up here than it is here at the end. I'm not sure how that works, because usually flatter is something like 12s, 14s. And usually it goes like 9 to 12, where it starts curvier and then it gets flatter down here, but this one's the opposite. So when you're up here, action is a problem if you've got high frets in this area, which is why some people use what's called the roll-off method, where they take all these frets down, make sure they're all lower than the rest of them. Even, but lower than the rest of them, so that they don't have that problem, especially with a small radius, smaller radius, because if you want to like bend up a string around here, what happens is when it hits the high point there, it grounds out. Yeah, don't need any of that stuff, so these will have to be taken down. The rest of them just need to be polished, and all the ends sharpened up. Now the part where I've got them with the ends, I can see here and there where there was some leveling done on that, but just not enough. Maybe in their opinion, because they like to have the string so high this way, it was enough, but it's still high compared to these two on either side of it. Not a ton, but high. And it's not something you could tap down, because you've got a polyurethane on the top of this. It's sealed right up underneath of the edge of the fret, so you couldn't get a paper in there. So this is not the kind like a roseacre or a rosewood or something else of a darker wood that's not got a poly on it, where you could tap it. You hit this with a hammer, you could end up chipping the poly on either side of your fret or one side of your fret. So it did have a back bow in it, and it took almost all of the turns to the loosey side to get it to flatten out, so I could just check that. With no tension on the neck, it has a natural back bow that requires my double-sided truss rod to be used pretty much all the way to the loosey side, where it just kind of stops turning. But I'm going to let that set for a while. Well, look at this. So we know that's not tight. We know that's not tight. We know that's not tight. That one's not tight. That one's not tight. And that one's not tight. Every one of these are not tightened down. They're all loose enough. It could be a maracas. LYX Pro, your factory work sucks big time. Now, you know, here this cost, like, I think I might have said it, $179.99, so $180 plus taxes, $197. I bought a monoprice Strat for $136 Canadian total, not including shipping, from California, and it was built 500% better than this, at least 500% better than this. It will be better when I'm done with it, like it should have been. So as it turns out, not only was every one of these collars loose in the front, but 3 top end of these did not have the screws fully secured. One is really good. This one and this one were okay. Oh, better put a bit in there. So yes, shoddy workmanship, I have to say, shoddy. So far from an all-round perspective, really shoddy workmanship. I'm doing my best to try to get these screws to come out. They're a little bit soft as well, without slipping off and scoring the back of this headstock, which the figuring looks nice. This is the best part of the whole guitar, is the figuring on this neck. Literally, I'm serious about that. This is the best part of the guitar right now, is the figuring on the neck, back of the neck. It would be nice if they put some lubricant in there, like wax. When they put those in, they go in easier, they come out easier. They might even get them secure. They had lubricant on them, like wax, candle wax. I'm sure they can figure out some other thing. Let's test one of the Music Lilies to see how they're going to position, and they position perfectly. 45-degree tab, perfect. Got to be careful because look, they look identical. They even have numbers on them. Like this one says 8. 2, 1, 3, 5. Is that 5? Oh, that's a 6 and a 7. Music Lily has a 5. And a 6. And a 7. And a 2. And a 4. And a 3. So these have numbers on them, just like these. Like I said, there were 3 of these that were pretty good. I did not take notice of which ones came out of which holes. I don't think there's any difference between them. They're definitely not going to be staggered type, are they? They're not expensive enough for staggering. So what the numbers mean, I do not know. If anybody does know, I don't find any height difference between them. And as far as any spec goes, I wonder if those are Music Lily as well. Are they constructed the same way? You know they are. They are constructed the same way. So maybe what I'm going to need to do is find the best 6 out of all these and use that. Here's an idea, huh? I've had to do that on the Kramer. Buy a whole different brand of tuner and put pieces together to make a good set. Alright, well this is a Lily. 2, 4, 6. This is the new Lily. I'm going to keep those separate. And I think what I'm actually going to do here is just use my Sharpie and put a dot on the white sticker of all the ones I just bought. So I'll be able to identify these in case I mix them up at all. And then I can make a choice of the best 6. Okay, we knocked the nut out. The nut is plastic and as usual, the back edge of the nut, which I won't be able to show this on the camera, but the little plastic leftovers, the residue where they cut this way, they leave the little pips back there, and they don't bother even, I mean they could knock them off with their fingers, but they just leave them there. And that just causes FOD and can interfere with the string, how it sits in there, because it's still hanging off the back edge of the slot. Yeah, it's a terrible nut. So the nut, the front of that looks pretty nice actually, you know. I'm going to replace these. But yeah, the figuring of this neck is right now the nicest part of everything. Alright, We are going to let that sit. Let's see if it's gone into under bow now that I've let it all sit there for a little bit while. Yes. Tiny, 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 tiny. No? No, no. Well, I think there's a little bit of a, right around the markers, there's a little bit of an issue, but I'll just get off the markers. And yeah, it's still flush and flat. So taping up, filing down, all that terrible stuff will all take place, and it'll be done in a snap for you.